Imagine yourself in an empty void with the power of creation between your palms. What would exist? That is the moment of the blank page where all your wizardry is going to show up. But where do you start crafting this new world? Now let's talk about a formula. But first, hey everybody, welcome to Craftniks, tabletop hobby spot, crafting everything from terrain to the game. And here, this video, we're going to be crafting the game. More specifically, world building. Now, if you're like me, you need formulas and outlines and systems in place to kind of alleviate the technical side of the hobby so that when you were in the right mind, right state of mind, pun intended, that you are in a creative zone, undistracted, fully zeroed in, locked in, ready to go. So real quick, some motivational words or phrases to kind of set the tone before we step into the series of questions that we want to ask ourselves when we sit down in our hobby. So the first motivational piece is just to do it, just to get in there. And the second one is you can't do it wrong. You can't. It's yours. You just mold it and morph it, and it's continuous. It's lasting. So let's get into the first one. When you sit down in your hobby space and you ask yourself this, tonight is what type of session? Is it game prep or is it leisure? Now, game prep has its own world building mechanics. So let's get this one out the way first. This has a focus, a motive. So if you're game prepping, you're going to be world building, but you want to have your boots on the ground, meaning that no more aerial shots of your world, no more big concepts. You want to envision yourself with your feet on the ground next to your PCs, players, and if they haven't chosen them yet, silhouettes or proxies. And you want to envision this space that you are in. This is where the game night is going to be. This is the first person view of the world, and that's where your players are going to be. Now, as you're building your games prep session, you're going to be world building and you want to get these notes, but the main question you want to ask yourself constantly when you think of new ideas and thoughts is this going to be useful in game? If it is, then it goes down on that paper. If it's not, then you put it on the side for later, for when you're in your leisure world building. Now, when you're sitting down leisurely for your world building, it unlocks a whole plethora of questions. Now, let's push aside any questions about writing for publishing. Let's think that. Let's focus on why you're world building for your games, for your table, for the people that are around playing and rolling dice with you. The reason you're world building is to get a bearing of the world so that if any questions arise or anything out of place happens, because it will, you have a sense of how to improvise and what direction to go. So the details, unless you have photographic memory, which then is a boon and a gift, you don't really need. You want those questions there. You need to be comfortable with the unknown so that in the time of the crunch, you can create the unknown on the spot instead of having to memory recall those unknowns. So a good second question to ask is, have you considered the game system you're going to use? Now, you don't have to have the answer for this and you don't have to know right now, but it's a good question to ask at that time, the second question, because it might steer or will steer your direction of your world building. Now, why do I say this? For example, 5e has a progression system and spells that allow you to realm travel into different dimensions, like the astral plane, the ethereal plane. So if you're going to use that system, you might want to consider the cosmos that you're in if you're going to use that exact system or exact location, or you're going to kind of homebrew that and mix it into some conglomerate of messiness. Now, if you just have a system like Cypher System or ICRPG, where these are more DM toolboxes to use, then you don't have to think in those terms, right? You don't have to answer those extra questions that some more detailed settings have. Ultimately, though, when you're world building, the easiest way to think about it is to think in regions and linkages. Now, the regions can be however big, but I suggest keeping it small because you'll want different themes. You'll want your desert, you'll want your woods, you'll want your snowlands, and any other thing that you could dream up. But these should be all in regions, because when the time comes, you'll want to put them together like a puzzle piece. And the linkages are what links them together. The linkages are the forms of travel: portal, ship, griffin, dragon, whatever else you could think of. Now, linkages are easy to think of, right? And you can actually build a whole little tiny world around a linkage, like a ghost ship. And now you're detailing all of the crewmates and whatnot, stuff like that. But ultimately, the linkages are in simple passing. Most of the time, we just travel in a cutscene to the next destination, unless something is going to happen in those linkages. And that is very well might happen. And the reason that you're world building is so that you have that option to pluck out when you're ready for your game session. And that leaves regions. Now, the reason that I think the easiest thing is to think in regions, again, is because you can piece them like a puzzle. You can have your snow setting, your desert setting, your jungle setting, your grassland setting, your wood setting, any other setting, your underwater setting, and all of these will be able to be plucked in place as needed. Do you want to travel distant world in a portal to this world? Well, now your linkage will be the portal and your region is the snow world. But if you're like me, you like to have these formulas in place so that when you're ready to start your new world, you can just fill in the blanks. You don't have to recreate the outline. But I think that's for another video, and I could use another video, so we're gonna do it like that. And that's it. So thank you guys for watching, spending your time with Craftnix. I hope that you got some inspiration or maybe got the wheels turning. And I want to give a big thank you to my patrons who show some love and support. And if you've been hanging out for a little while and considering showing support yourself, there's a couple of ways to do that. The most common one to do is the YouTube buttons down below: like, share, subscribe, and all of that stuff. So it kind of helps me feed through the charts of the algorithm and kind of get out there myself. There's also social media, TikTok and Instagram mostly, where I post some stuff periodically, and mostly hobby stuff, but if it's inspiring in real life, I do that too. Also, I have Patreon open, and this is just for a little coin to help with supplies and keep going, because there is crafting. They're synonymous with each other. They're two sides of one coin: the world building and the crafting. I mean, we're crafting for our worlds, right? So that is where we want to be, the sweet spot of the table. Also, I do some Saturday check-ins on my patrons, so it's everything that I've done in between Saturdays. It could be a weekly, bi-weekly, and little oftenly sporadic, if that is a term that I could coin. But it's just to show what I do in the hobby and what's to come in the channels and stuff like that, and my thought process behind it. So again, that's a way to support the channel and keep it moving. Also, lastly, I have some templates of the stackable sci-fi buildings that I did about earlier in the year, and the templates are online on Ko-fi for free, but to pay for what you want. So if you like to throw a couple of coins into the pot for supplies and stuff, again, all of it is used towards production of videos, and hopefully I can get systems in place using these coins to expedite the video, this one-man band that is Craftnix. So with that, I hope again that all of your game tables are full of fellowship, friendship, and love, and I am signing out with that thought. So just get started world building. Craftnix signing out. Peace.